Hey everyone, I have Isabeau Maxwell here today. She's one of the leading spiritual coaches in intuitive development training.
Mhm.
And she and I have been chit-chatting, and it's like, I have to tell you that we were talking about podcasting and how I feel like I meet people for a reason, of course. And I feel like I make new friends all the time. And Isabel and I have been just chit-chatting about living and RVs versus huge houses and places that we've lived and we've felt comfortable with. Um, but she is going to talk about how she went from a skeptic to a medium. And we just wanted to start recording our conversation because it was so fun and y'all were missing out on it. So, welcome to the show, Isabel.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so interesting that she's in an RV right now in Florida. And I'm in my massive house in South Carolina. So,
Talking about the difference in size and living style. Absolutely. Yeah, I was telling you that we've been full-time RVing and just traveling all over the country for the last 2 years.
so let me ask you, what was your favorite place you've been to so far in the country?
Oh, that's a tough one. Um, I would have to say Mount Zion. I would have to say Zion National Park. I don't know if it's a national, but Zion Park. It
Yeah,
is,
I've been
yeah,
there. It's
yeah.
amazing.
When I went there, I had heard about it, never been there. We got very lucky and we got a spot there and we pulled in and we went for our first hike. And I remember looking around thinking, if there's ever a place that, is an example of Mother Earth's like artistic creation, this would be it.
Yes. Yeah.
It was the most beautiful place I had ever seen. And then second in line is actually the place that we're going to shortly, which is in Florida. It's on the Indian River, and that's where all the manatees and the dolphins like hang out. And you
Hmm.
literally back your RV up to that, and about 10 feet in front of you are just manatees and dolphins, and you
Okay,
just
where is this? Because I want to
isn't
see
that
this.
okay? I'm gonna announce this, but a lot of us RVers don't want to tell people because we want to keep the
Oh,
place
maybe you should
secret.
send it to me later if you don't want to announce it on the show.
No, everyone should go here. It's there, it's literally you sit out there and you just watch. Right now, we've been talking to them. The mama dolphins are actually teaching the baby dolphins how to feed right now. So we're going to be able to watch that when we come down. But it's Indian Mound Fish Camp in Oak Hill, Florida. It is spectacular. Amazing owners. It's just one of our happy places. You will not regret coming here. Not regret coming here. It's incredible.
Ooh, so I have a friend that does have an RV.
Yeah, you gotta tell her to stop by
Hey,
when you're
let's
there.
go see the dolphins and I love manatees so much. I love
Oh,
them so much.
they're just big bunches of love. Yeah, and they're 10 feet in front of you, just swimming along, and it's uh it's one of the reasons I RV is to be able to see
Well,
all
I
that kind of
have
stuff.
been to, I think there's springs. I think it's DeLand Springs, but there's a springs around DeLand, Florida, where the manatees would come in and you can kind of walk
Yeah.
up to them and watch them. And so
Yep.
I did that years and years ago. So,
It's so cool. And here you can put a kayak in and literally just float around them.
oh my God, I would
It
be in
is
heaven.
magical. Yeah, it's magical. Indian Mountain Fish Camp, anyone that RVs, it's got to be on your list.
Okay, I'm writing this down. And I dropped my phone. So tell us a little more about yourself and, how did you end up doing what you're doing and being convinced that mediumship was a real thing?
I'm telling you, 20 years ago, I would have laughed you right out of the building. I would have said absolutely no way. I had religion, I had the basics of religion. I grew up Methodist, I'm a nice Minnesota girl. And I grew up Methodist, went through confirmation, and then I just said to my parents, this just isn't my thing. And they said, that's cool. They weren't into it. So there was really no religion, no spirituality in my household. So I was really a complete skeptic. I got a math degree from college. 1+1 was 2, very, science oriented. I have to be able to see it, feel it, and touch it for it to be real. And I would have never expected the path to unfold the way it did. And I'm so glad that it did. But it was really a stunning experience. So here I am, not actively skeptic, like I wasn't trying to prove anything wrong. I was just living my life. But one thing I did believe was that, psychics, mediums, it's not real. They're just frauds. It's just, it's that woo-woo thing. And I had that judgment. So I'm 32 years old at this point, and this was back in 2005, just to go ahead and age myself. But I was 32, and my grandmother was in Minnesota. I was in New Hampshire, and she passed away. Within a few hours of her passing away, my husband at the time and my 2 kids took off to the grocery store to get some supplies and things like this. And I was standing in my living room, and I remember trying to decide, do I let myself completely fall apart right now, or do I pull it together, get the airline ticket plans, and get things organized? Because moments before, I had been on the phone with her hospice room, trying to say goodbye to her. And it was just so massively emotional. So I'm standing there kind of toggling between these 2 choices. And she showed up right in the middle of my living room and scared me. It frightened me. I remember jumping back. I remember yelling at her. I'll never forget this. I remember yelling at her, if that was you, don't ever do that again. Like, that was my first reaction. It was like, don't, So it was a panic, because the only thing my brain held on to up to that point was scary movies. Do you know what I mean? Like, I wasn't a Casper the Friendly Ghost fan. It was more like, Freddy Krueger and stuff. So that was the only reference point I had. So it was very, very frightening. And then I went to bed that night. I didn't want to tell anybody, because no one in my circles, no one that I knew, believed in any of that. And so I kept it to myself. I just went to bed that night. The next morning, I remember my husband said, I had this super vivid dream about your grandmother last night. She was wearing this blue button-down shirt. It was like short sleeve. And he started describing what she was wearing, which was exactly what she was wearing when she showed up in my living room the night before. Creeped me out, right? I think that was the first time I had ever gotten goosebumps. And I just said, okay, I got to tell you something. This happened to me yesterday. Now, I was trying to blow it off, but honestly, my grief wasn't having it. I wanted my grandmother. I didn't want to lose her. She was my mom, in essence. A lot of people can relate to that. And she was my loving maternal figure in my life, and I didn't want to lose her. So I was like, well, why don't I just explore this to see if it's real? And I approached it all like scientifically, proof, quickly realized you can't approach it that way. And
Yeah.
I went down to, I knew a Tai Chi instructor. I didn't know him, like I wasn't friends with him, but we had done business previously in a fitness center situation. And so I went to him, and I adore this man, because even how I approached him, which I didn't realize back then was a little on the rude side, he still just lovingly kind of embraced me and said, yes, I can help you. Because I remember pulling him aside and saying, hey, you're the weirdest person I know. Can you help me? And I remember he was like, absolutely. And then later I went, yeah, that wasn't the best approach, But thanks for still loving me unconditionally anyway and helping me out. And he did.
But you know what? I don't think weird is a bad word. And obviously, it's the name of my podcast, my
Yeah.
weirdest
I
experience. But I don't think being weird, would upset me. I'd be like, hey, yeah. And I could prove to you how weird I am. Just spend some more time with me.
Well, to be fair, this was back in 2005. There's a little bit more judgment around spirituality back then. It's come a long way in the last 15 or so years. And from my circle, my circles, my point of view, um, it was really an initial kind of judgment on my part.
Mhm.
Um, because I didn't know any better, you know. I am fabulously weird today. I think weird is the best thing ever. But I remember just saying, yeah, okay, you're the strangest person I know. You're the weirdest person I know. Like, can you help me? And he did. And he was just, so he was my first teacher, and it was a wonderful coincidence that there's no coincidences, but
Yeah,
wonderful.
right, right.
Right.
Everything's
There's
meant.
not. That
It's
was my
called
first synchronicity. There you go.
divine timing. Everything
Yes.
happens exactly at the right time.
Exactly. Yeah,
Hmm.
and it was interesting because when she showed up in my living room, first off, I now look back and she's a funny, cheeky kind of lady, you know. So I know that she probably passed away, went to the other side and went, "Oh, what? Oh, so my granddaughter's scheduled to do that. Can I be the one? Can I like scare her? Can I pop into her living room unannounced?" And
Yep,
they're like, "Go
yep.
ahead. Go ahead, Josephine." And she probably went, "Yeah." Because she showed up, she was right in front of me. So it wasn't even a out of the corner of the eye sort of thing. It was as if, I'm looking at you. And she was like 70% solid. She smiled, she winked, and then disappeared. She thoroughly enjoyed that moment. And I love that she enjoyed that moment.
Well, here's the thing is when they pass on, it's very freeing. If they had been sick or had some physical problems, all of a sudden all that's gone and wiped away. And then you kind of have that awareness of everything all at once.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember having a dream about a client of mine who died of pancreatic cancer. And I was actually in France at the time. And I dreamt of him, and he was showing me all the cool things he could do. Like he was really excited. He's like, "Look, Tina, I could do this." And I just felt this sense of empowerment from him. And
Yeah.
since I was in France, I didn't know he had died, but I had that feeling, of course, well, if he passed away, I won't be surprised. And then
Yeah.
when I returned from France, I heard that he did pass away. And I was like, of course, the dream makes sense because it's real. It's not just a dream, it's a visitation. And
Yes.
I told his wife, I said, "Hey, I had this dream about him in France, and I wanted to tell you what happened. And have you been dreaming about him?" And she said, "Oh, yeah, I've been dreaming about him."
Yes. Oh, I love that. I absolutely love that. I
Mhm.
remember sitting with this beautiful woman in hospice, and you could tell that she was trying, to let go, and she was trying to release. And I went home that night and I woke up the next day, and I had been in a pattern for a number of days because I was working with the family in hospice, and I would wake up every day, get in the car, and I would go there and hang out for the day, come home. So I woke up, got in the car, I'm halfway there, and she showed up in my passenger seat, and she's like, "Beau, I did it." And I was like, "You did." You did. Like, she was so excited. She was like, "I did it. I look and look at this and look at that." And I was like, "Wow, that's awesome." There's this beautiful freeing feeling to being able to let go of the linear mind, the fear-based mind. It's awesome because you're still you. It's just you're you worry free with a big, huge observational perspective. It's really cool.
And they're still alive.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yep.
not like they got canceled, cleared, deleted, and disappeared from the universe. They're still there. There's their energy and everything wrapped in, and you can feel it.
Yeah.
So if you're a clairsentient or a big feeler, you can feel their energy and their presence, and it feels alive.
Yeah.
So I'm the worst person in a funeral now. I mean, I'm just like, there's Uncle Roger in the corner. He's smiling. Oh, I can't tell anybody because I'm gonna freak out my family, but he's
Yeah.
okay.
We gotta let them grieve. Let them grieve. Let's not do this. Yeah, it's let them have their moment. And
Hmm.
yeah, it's so true. The only thing that's now, you just don't, you're not carrying the body. You're not in the physical body anymore. We come
Hmm.
down here, and a little piece of our higher self comes down here, gets into this vehicle, has a lifetime, and then exits the vehicle when it's time to exit. And it's a really, really cool experience to have. Not all of it is fun and exciting, but when we start to see it for what it is, I think that we find a little bit of a deeper appreciation for the human experience that we are having.
Hmm.
And it's really cool experience to connect with people on the other side, connect with people that are transitioning, and it's really opened my eyes to a lot. I mean, today, way more compassionate, patient in the moment, experiencing life to the fullest, getting ready to sit there and watch a bunch of dolphins and manatees swim by me. Exactly. So it's I think when you open up to your spiritual path and you open up to intuition, you start to open up to more of what's really real, which is ironic
Hmm.
because that was the complete opposite of how I felt before that one moment when she stood in my living room.
Well,
So,
now you are in tune to the magic of the universe and the planet, and there's no turning back. You can't unsee and unhear and
yep.
unexperience what happened. And
Hmm.
that's what I say. It's now you live in a magical world, and then you're going to experience even more of the magic because you're paying attention now.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
there's power to possibilities too. When we limit what we believe is possible, we limit what we can experience.
Yeah.
And it's really powerful when you start to open up to those possibilities, if at all possible. I tell people, if you can hold yourself in a space of faith and trust, even for short periods of time each day, your system will start getting used to being in that trust. And it's in that energy of faith and trust that you're open to more things being possible for you. It can be tough. People say, well, what do you have to have first, the experience or the belief? And for me, it was the experience I had first, but that was a little bit of a fluke. It doesn't happen the same way for everyone. For
Hmm.
most people, I've told them just have as much belief under your belt as you can. They've
I
done
think
studies.
I think the key is to be open. You
Yes.
don't have to believe anything. You don't have to 100% be all in. Just be open to what happens. Be open-minded and accepting. Don't judge it. Don't resist it. Don't psychoanalyze it. Just go with the flow and be open to it. And that's
Yeah.
when the magic happens because you get
Yeah.
out of your own way.
You do. And the belief of one particular thing is going to become solid for you when you experience it.
Hmm.
But but belief in itself, like just believing in the possibilities, believing there's more out there, believing that allowing yourself to believe, there's so much more this could happen. I mean, there's been studies where I used to be part of a ghost hunting team, which was really fun. It was really fun. I always encourage ghost hunting teams to clear buildings when they're done because I believe all spirits should be able to go home. But with that said, I have been on a ghost hunting team before, and we did a number of ghost hunts, and they were really interesting. There's been research where when bringing skeptics on ghost hunts and then repeating the same situation without the skeptic, far more evidence comes through, like on camera, on audio, when the skeptic's not in the area. That skepticism is a shield. It's really kind of a cloak. It covers things up for you. And
Mhm.
it's completely fine to be skeptic. People have asked me all the time, because I'm a former skeptic, well, do you feel compelled to convince other skeptics? Absolutely not.
Mm-mm.
No. A skeptic has every right to feel the way they want to feel or be where they want to be. Maybe that's their path in this lifetime, is to be a skeptic from beginning to end. We
Mhm.
can't discount what they're bringing to us, what we're bringing to them. We can't discount any of it. It all has to be. But when you bring that energy in, and that's the energy, that's kind of coursing through that energetic, spiritual body of yours, then that's the law of attraction in itself. So by staying open, by saying, okay, I believe in possibilities, you're fueling your energetic body and your spiritual body toward the law of attraction, toward
Mhm.
opening up and seeing more and experiencing more. So it's kind
Have
of
you
like
ever
steps.
have you ever heard of Dr. Brian Weiss?
Yes.
I took a workshop with him in New York City years and years ago, and he's this older gentleman psychotherapist that kind of um, fell upon proof of other lives and reincarnation through his clients. And I remember him sitting on that stage with his very relaxing voice, with the
Mm-hmm.
microphone held up to his mouth. And he was talking about how to deal with skeptics. And he
Mm-hmm.
said, and I don't know if somebody asked him a question or he just started talking about it, but he's like, it's not my job to convince anybody that this is true.
Yep.
So I don't even bother.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, him saying those words like, you have to experience it. You have to be open to it. But you could experience things through other people. Like if you're listening to this show and the episodes, you can tell when somebody's having an authentic experience and they're telling the truth.
Yeah.
I always say that the emotions of it doesn't lie. You can't make up emotions. We're not Oscar winning actors.
Exactly.
We can't
Exactly.
just make this stuff up.
Yeah. Weiss is amazing. He was the one that wrote Many Lives, Many
Lives, many
Masters.
masters. Yep.
And
Hmm.
he did the life in between life regressions, which is wonderful. You know, people don't stop and think about a person's security blanket, right? We all have ours. My current security blanket right now, as a medium, I can see what's going on energetically around me. That brings me comfort. You know, as a skeptic, my security blanket was to not see any of that. When I was a skeptic, when I closed my door at night and locked it, that kept everything out. And a lot of people don't consider the emotional road a skeptic will go down by opening up to these things, because then you shut your door at night and that's not keeping everything out. So to go from believing that nothing's there to now something's there, can you tell I'm speaking from experience? I went to therapy for 2 years to try to process this, because it can be rattling for someone to all of a sudden, okay, now this is a reality. So we have to know, we don't have to know, but we have to be considerate of somebody's security blanket. Like I
Hmm.
said, my security blanket today now is that I can see energetically what's going on around me. So I feel a little bit more, confident and secure in what I'm doing and where I'm going and what's happening. But before, my security blanket was very different. So trying to rip that away from somebody isn't the best approach.
So my security blanket was I know there's something there because I can feel it
Hmm.
and I can't block this, but I don't want to see you.
Yes.
So I
Oh, that's
said,
so common. Yes.
I
That's
said that a lot.
so
I was
common.
like, I eventually, as I got older, I started accepting the fact that there's something there. And I always believed in the afterlife anyway. So I was like, well, I know you're there, but please don't show yourself.
That is so common. I've taught so many students, and I can't even count how many times someone has said that to me. I want to be able to use my intuition, but I don't want to see anything. Like, don't show up at my house. Don't like pop out at me. And I tell people they're never going to give you what you can't handle. They're not, and even though, I felt like that my experience was really intense and I still could handle it, you know. I'm
Mhm,
I'm I'm that kind of person where, like, if an accident happened in front of me, I would jump in. Okay, what does everybody need? Let's go. So
mhm.
I'm a bit fearless in that category. So people say, well, I don't want that happening to me. It probably won't. So if you have those concerns, they're typically not going to present in a way that that you can't handle. I mean, I remember when I first started seeing more than my grandmother. And again, it was like a pop moment. But again, I could handle it back then. Like
Yeah,
that
yeah.
was my level of being able to handle it. And
Well, I
I was a
didn't,
little bit thick-headed. So we also
yeah.
have to consider that they had to show it to me that way for me to go, okay, something happened here, and
I
not brush it
didn't
off.
think that I could see spirit. I really
Mhm.
didn't. But once I got my focusing muscle in there, and, my focus and clearing my mind, and I was like, oh, yeah, I can see a form there and focus in on it more. Oh, I can see it's a male or a female, or I can see facial features now. And it was a process of practice over
Yes.
time. It wasn't immediate. And then through practice, or working with clients or meditating, it went like full circle where my spirit guide could be face to face to me and I could see the freckles on her nose.
Yeah.
So that's how it evolved that I could see. But what was comforting to me, which is odd, is that when I spoke to spirit, I could hear them. And so all that awkwardness and that fear went away because I said, this is just a person or a being. And if I just find out what they need and why they're here or what their message is, we can take care of it and they can move on and I can move on.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And then I decided not to be afraid anymore.
That's a good there's a point where you link into it and you understand it and you find more comfort, and it just gets easier. And it doesn't help that, here in America, at least, our culture is very based on, spooky boo, right? And
Mhm.
so there's a lot of fear of things popping out and fear of, what goes bump in the night. I remember going to a woman's house, and I love this story. I've told it many times, but I remember going to her home and I was talking to the homeowner, and she says, my house is haunted. I'm terrified. I hear footsteps on the stairs, and every now and then I come downstairs and all my kitchen cabinets are open. This is terrifying, right? I'm like, I totally understand. I get it. Turns out, when I tapped in to clear the home, it didn't need to be cleared. It was her aunt. I'm like, so we tend to, like, her aunt was literally upset that she had changed her pie recipe, right? And I said, any chance the cabinets are open the day after you make that pie? And she was like, no way. She was,
Mhm.
seriously. And I'm like, what did you do? What's going on that's different? Why would your aunt be mad about, and she went, I changed the recipe. Well, there you go. Right. So, so your aunt's just trying to get in contact with you so it's her. But because we have so many paranormal shows and scary movies and things like that, it's very normal and natural for people to jump to hearing something or experiencing something and then instantly thinking it's bad or scary.
Right,
And,
right.
on a rare occasion, it is. I get that. I've been in those too, done clearings for so many years. But a lot of times it's a loved one trying to reach us. And we need to rehumanize that ghost thing.
Yeah.
I love saying ghosts are people too. Ghosts are people too. It's a
Yeah,
person.
they are.
And once we get back to that, this is a person, then that's where all the good stuff is.
And if you having activity like that, find a medium, find a
Yeah.
psychic or a medium or a shaman. I know that's not many of us around, but there's two of us right here,
Yeah.
and we can work distance. We don't have to be there, so find
Exactly.
out what's going on, get some help because there are people out there with abilities that can help you.
Yeah.
Um,
If
so
your heart open, and you know and not everyone has focused on their intuitive channel to open it up. I mean, everyone's intuition is super strong. There's no special factor, there's no gifted ones, there's no, I know that that's a big pop culture kind of myth as well, that that person has the gift, right?
or they're special
Or they're
and
special because
right,
they can do whatever. No, they've just focused on honing a sense that you also have. That's it. So, and
right.
you can too.
hmm Just
Mhm.
like if you're in a room and somebody enters it and stands behind you, you're gonna feel that.
Yes,
Everybody
exactly.
feels that
Yep. When someone's looking at you across the
across
fabric
the
store,
room
you
and
can
you
feel
scan
it.
the
You're
room
like,
and your eyes meet, it's
yep.
because you felt it.
Mm-hmm.
You felt them looking at you. So everybody has those basic skills. Now just
Absolutely.
apply that to a spirit, not
Mm-hmm.
to a physical human.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's what I think one of the signs of a medium is as a child is being scared of the dark. Because
Oh,
um if someone comes to me and says, "Yeah, I was terrified of the dark," and I says because you felt something and you knew something was there watching you or you weren't alone and that's scary when you're little.
and you
And
can feel it. Yep.
right, and nobody believes you either, you
Mm.
know? So you're kind of alone with it and that's scary too. So
Oh yeah.
as you get older, you realize, well, no one's ever in my room at night because you're not allowed in my house because I have a lot of rules now. But as a child, as a child, you don't know. You don't know what to do, but now you know what to do. I'm a very territorial psychic medium, so my house is like a fortress.
Yep. Yep.
Good
Me
luck getting in here because if you do, it's not going to be a pleasant experience for you because I'll be mad.
too. Hey, even currently, like I said, we're full-time RVing. This thing is a tank. I don't care where we go, it's a tank. And it's interesting too, because there's different energies everywhere we go. And
Yeah.
we find that to be true. So energy is huge. When we start acknowledging it, feeling it, that's really one of the first steps. And I love when you talked about focusing in on spirit. And one tip that I love to give my students is to focus by defocusing, because a lot of us are, we're looking for something. And when you're actively looking, you're using your human focus to land on the agreed upon reality. When the truth is, what you're looking for is in between the molecules. It's in between that space. It's in the empty space. So defocus to focus is a great task. It's why when we see something out of the corner of our eye and we turn to look at it, we can't find it, because what's happened there is out of the corner of your eye, your peripheral is defocused. That's why you saw it. And then when you turn to look at it, you're focusing on the material objects, the wall, the door, the table, et cetera, et cetera. And that's not where spirit is. Spirit's not in the material. So if you allow your eyes to just relax and let go of the agreed upon reality, and then your focus kind of goes inward. And
Mhm.
I think that's really a big key to people starting to be able to see and to hear these things that we're talking about that they're feeling.
And also the answers, a great example of this is the answers is in the silence.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to take courses, classes with other mediums and other Reiki practitioners. And when you're an energy healer, you really hone your intuition very
Mm-hmm.
well with more practice. So
Yeah.
that's another segue into enhancing your intuition or your psychic abilities.
Oh
But I
yeah.
would take these classes and people would, I'm not leading the classes, I'm a student. And the students would be asking the questions of the teacher who's a medium. And there would be this moment of silence, right? And I would get the answer.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Yeah.
I would wait for the teacher to answer, and she said she didn't know. And I was like, oh. I know what it is. Do I say something? And I was like, well, this is not my class. So, you know,
Not
I'm
gonna say anything. Mm-hmm.
yeah. And I had one woman sitting next to me. She really wanted to connect with I don't know if she knew it was her grandfather, but I saw him clearly standing next to her. I could see his uniform. And
Mm-hmm.
so I shared that with her. I said, I can see a uniform. So anybody, it feels like World War II. And she's like, oh, I know who that is. So she was sensing him around her, but she didn't know what it was.
Yep.
But it's in that in between space, like those silences where those answers come. If you're focused in on, and maybe I automatically do that defocusing thing. I don't know.
You probably do. Yep.
Probably.
Yep. But it's definitely a technique that I've seen work for so many people because it seems like so simple, like something that you should think of, but then, you know, we don't, because we're very much in our human existence, living in a very much a human way, which is why we struggle accessing the intuition. We have to kind of shift from the human to the spirit within ourselves. And to do that, we have to kind of detach from, you know, the world around
The
us. It's why
physical world.
meditation works well. It's why
Mhm.
scrying works fantastic. It's why card reading works well. These things are getting us out of our own way.
Yeah. Yeah. And when I do see things at the corner of my eye, I usually turn to the location and I ask, is there anybody there? And then I feel, see, or hear if there is anything there.
Mm-hmm.
Ask
Yeah.
questions. The
Yeah.
better questions you ask, the better answers you will get. Sometimes
Absolutely.
it's figuring out what the question is.
I have my favorite number one question of all time when it comes to being an intuitive in connecting, whether it's with spirit, psychic energy source, loved ones, guides. My favorite question is, what do you want me to know? What do you want me to know? Because I find that a lot of mediums and intuitives really limit the amount of information that can come through for them because they jump right out in the gate asking very specific questions right away. And if
Mm-hmm.
you think about this logically, especially with loved ones and guides, especially with actual beings that are, you know, conscious beings, what you're doing is you're meeting with them, you're connecting with them, and this is their opportunity to share with you that kind of omnipresent or you know, that big perspective that they have. They've got all this knowledge, right? And then here you come and you're like, okay, what's your name? When did you die? How old are you? How tall are you? You know, what'd you do for a living? And so they literally have to kind of wait for you to get through all that so that they can tell you the really important pieces. But
Yeah.
if you give them the floor right away, the accuracy just skyrockets because they're there to talk to you. They're not there for you to pick their brain.
Hmm.
They're there for you to share things with you, and that's when the really good stuff comes out.
Well, what I ask, what I've always done when I started figuring out I could hear spirit is, do you have a message for me?
Yes. What is it you want me to know?
Do
Do you
you
have a
have a
message?
message? Is it for me, someone else? What do you need to
Yep.
say?
Yep.
Or how can I help you? Do you need help with anything?
Exactly. Yep.
Because there's a reason why they're coming to you. If it's out of the blue, if it's with a client, obviously they have something to say. And
Mm-hmm.
doesn't it make you laugh? Because if there's like a group of them, they're all jockeying to be the first. Like whoever the
Yes.
pushiest one is gets to the
Mm-hmm.
front.
Yep. And then you'll have a client that's like, "Oh, I really want to talk to my dad." And I'm like, "Yeah, but your grandma on your mom's side is way more like she's not having your dad right now. Like your dad can just
Yep.
step to the side and she needs to say what she's gonna say."
Yep.
So
Yep.
yeah, controlling what comes through or how it comes through or who comes through can really block a lot of it. I mean, you
Hmm.
do have to have some sort of, structure in a kind way to say to the spirits coming through, "Hey, guess what? I'm human. I need a little help differentiating here," and
Yeah.
they'll help. Absolutely, they'll help. But yeah, sometimes there's one person that'll come through. I remember having these really cool clients come in. There's two women and they were friends. And they came in, and one of them wanted to talk to a relative. But the first person that came through was their former boss.
Hmm.
And we had a minute to try to figure out who he was. This was back when like Obama was being elected for the first time and stuff. And so he was talking about politics and how excited he was about the direction things were going or something. And then he was wearing some particular clothing. And they both went, "Oh wow, that's our boss who passed recently." And they're like, "Why would he come through?" And then the other woman said, "We were talking about him in the car on the way over here." And I went, "That's why he came through."
Yep.
Because
Yep.
when you talk about them, when you think about them, when
Yes.
you talk to
Yep.
them, they come closer to you. So that
It's
was
like
that was a
calling them
fun
on the
experience.
cell phone.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I always
Yep.
laugh when people, they want to connect with a grandparent or grandma's grandma here. And I'm like, yeah, because you just mentioned her. You've been thinking about her, so that
Yeah.
pulls her to
You've been thinking
you.
about her. And that's a
Right.
beautiful thing to tell people before they go into readings is, think about them, talk to them on the way over and say, "Hey, guess what? I'm gonna go talk to this person, which you already know, but please come with me." And it really helps to amplify the connection.
So you were saying that you do clearings, which I'm so happy about because I feel like there's so few people who do that.
Yeah,
And
I'm trying to change that. I'm trying to get more and more people to do it
me
because it's
too, because
really
I know
important work.
people who
Yep.
would be good at it, but they're just afraid.
They're
They're like, I don't want to do that. I don't know. I'm like,
Well, I literally started a YouTube channel for this purpose where I shared, it's called the Other Side Chats, and I share my experience as a clearer, as somebody that does crossing over work. Each of the videos is a story about like one of the experiences that I had. And I started it in hopes that, people can listen to that and find and normalize it a little bit. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Take it out of the
yeah,
spooky and into the reality of it and really get the meaning behind it. I remember when my spirit guide years ago told me the first time that I was going to do clearing work. And I was still super brand new to intuition. It was still kind of fresh out of the box. And I was working with my guide, and he said, "You're going to do clearing work. You're going to cross spirits over who are stuck." And my fear brain went right into, okay, ghosts. Nope, that's scary. And he said, "They're not, they're people." And he goes, "And they need help. Wouldn't you want to help them?" And I remember thinking, I think so, but it still seems kind of scary. And he showed me this vision that it just summed it up, wrapped it up. And I was like, "Yep, that's it. I'll do the work." And it makes sense now. The vision was there was this tall building on like a little island, and there was a moat around it, a really large, kind of rapidy moat. And people were climbing out of the building and then swimming across the moat. And he explained to me, this is their transition process. And sometimes people can swim across super easy to cross, most of the time to cross over.
Mm-hmm.
It's a quick swim across and then they're on the other side. But sometimes people struggle in that water. And he said, look down. And I looked down into the water and it was, my kids. And he goes, would you help your kids? You understand, you're a mama. And I'm like, yeah, I would totally help my kids. And he goes, everyone is someone's kid. Everyone is someone's friend. Everyone is someone's mom, someone's dad. And I was like, I get it. I'm on board.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely on board. And it takes a lot less energy and involvement than people think.
Yeah.
And it's a really wonderful thing to do. Traditions all over the world have been doing this. They've been sitting with their loved ones for days after passing and, in the support of them crossing over. I mean, this is a lost tradition that, I think more and more people need to do.
It's easy.
Yeah, it's way easier
You
than
don't even
you
have to
think.
really do anything. You have to just the light to the other side's always there.
Mm-hmm.
Once you think about it, once you see it, and then you just point it out to them, said, there it is. That's where you need to go. And I
Yeah.
don't know if you've experienced it. It was almost like a magnet. Like once they focus in on it, it like pulls them up in there, you know, and
Yeah,
then it's automatic.
it's like a people mover. It's like a escalator, you know? And
Yeah.
it's just because people get scared. They're like, well, will I get stuck? No, the reason why people get stuck is some form of fear. There's always some form of fear, and it can be a loving fear. Like I've, crossed over a mom that didn't want to leave her kids until they graduated college or something,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it can be any kind of fear, but the fear is really kind of wedging your heels into the side of that escalator and stopping the movement upward. And really, as a living person showing up for that stuck spirit, you show up for them, you identify, okay, I'm here, you're not alone, let go of your fear, here's some love, and you just send them energetic love as much as possible. Picture the light, even if you don't see anything. Picture loving, unconditional, warm light and encouragement. And 9 times out of 10, that's really, much of what it is.
Yes, it is. I
Mhm.
love this. Well, thank you for doing it because I've been doing this for a while too. And my reason is I'm here to help. And
Mhm.
if I have the ability or the mojo or the talent or the energy or the motivation to help this person or this spirit, then I want to do that as best as I can.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
if I
Because
don't know
ghosts are
how,
people too.
I'll figure it out. Or if
Yep,
I have no clue, I'll try to find somebody that can help.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I could talk about this all day, but we don't have all day.
There's so much we could talk about, I know. Thank you so much for just having this conversation with me and allowing us to, connect to your listeners. I think it's a really wonderful thing.
Yeah, and if you're listening, you're still listening. It's the world is magical and there's so much hope and there's so much help. You just gotta go out there and find it. All the information you need is out there, actually.
Hmm.
So tell us a little more about like your coaching business and your book, and if people want to work with you, how can they find you?
But my book is that was a labor of passion there. That was a fun thing to write. The book is about the first 2 years of me opening up. So it's written in a memoir format. So it's a storyline, which I think makes it a little bit more engaging to read, which is a wonderful thing. But if you're interested in what that looks like, what that really looks like for a skeptic to go from complete skeptic to professional medium, it's a great book. My heart is really passionate about my community, which is called the Sage Circle. And I built that because it's an online spiritual community. It's got the educational component in there, all the courses and things, but it also has a very connected, supportive forum and members all over the globe, actually. And they've got different chapters in different areas all over the globe, which is really cool. It's a labor of love for me because I didn't have anybody when I opened up in my circles. And
Mhm.
there's a lot of people out there who are walking a spiritual path, but don't necessarily have a lot of loved ones or friends and family around them that they can talk to or ask questions or connect with or share their experiences. So the Sage Circle was really born from that, a safe place full of unconditional love where you can explore and share your spiritual experiences.
That sounds awesome. There's a lot of people that I meet that once they meet me, they talk my ear off because they have all these experiences and
That they want to share. Yes,
right, and all
exactly.
these questions and it's like, it saddens me that they're not sharing this with anybody or they feel like they can't share, but there are people out there that you've got to find them. Whether it's in person or online, like your community, you have to find them and they're out there. Just take a risk because when you're talking to someone, you think, something metaphysical is coming up. Should I mention it?
Yeah.
And sometimes that's just taking that chance, that person it might open them up. I had a chiropractor in Virginia, and I talk to all my chiropractors for some reason. We all get chit chatty. And I mentioned something to her about what I was doing, and she said, well, you know what? I don't tell a lot of people this, but my family has a history of seeing elves.
Yeah.
And if I had not even tried, or I thought she was closed off, or I made some kind of assumption,
Yeah.
she probably wouldn't have shared that with me, but she did. So that was super
Yeah.
cool.
And now imagine this, just a plethora of people that have all come together that you could just share these things with or listen to their stories as well. And it's really needed. So the Sage
Yeah,
Circle is really I'm its biggest fan. I absolutely love it. And people can find all of this on thesagemethod.com, THESAGE method.com. I kind of put everything in that hub, so it's really easy for people to find what they're looking for.
awesome. So check it out. All that information is going to be in the show notes. And thank you, Isabeau, for uh, connecting all the way from Florida in your RV.
Yeah, absolutely. On my little vacation, heading to go hang out with some manatees. I love it.
Oh my God, that sounds amazing. But thank you so much. It was so fun talking with you.
Thank you for having me.